So, you know how every summer there's always that one bad movie that kind of signals that the summer is basically over. Um, a few weeks ago, I thought it was going to be Fantastic Four, and because the movie was god awful. Um, but then I saw Straight Outta Compton, and it's basically every year you get that one movie that kind of signifies it's really, really bad. And it kind of signifies that all the good movies are gone. A couple of years ago, it was the remake of Total Recall, and then the next year it was, in my opinion, Two Guns, and then last year it was Sin City. This year it's a movie called American Ultra, and this is the most frustrating kind of movie for me because it's that movie that you can't completely throw away because it had some measure of potential. And there was something there that could have gone right, but then so much of it went wrong. It starts beautifully, I think. It's a story, in the beginning at least, of a guy named Mark, who's played by Jesse Eisenberg. And Mark is broken. Kind of just a broken man. He's a slacker, a stoner, but you feel for him. It's easy to just throw him away because he's basically a loser, but you feel for him. There doesn't seem to be anything in his life. There don't seem to be any friends. There doesn't seem to be any family. The only light in his life seems to be his girlfriend, Phoebe, who, despite his problems, despite his downfalls, despite his personal problems, sticks by him with a devotion that is either love or just plain stubbornness, depending on your point of view. And the two of them have a kind of a tender, sweet bond. They really do. They have a love affair it's just the two of them. And they're just two lost, lonely people clinging to each other. And for the first couple of minutes of the movie, really seems to signify that this is going to be some kind of sweet indie romance. And I would love to have seen where a better director or a non-studio film would have taken this. But it doesn't last. But Mark kind of, like I said, the only thing in his life is Phoebe. And also his job. He works in it's kind of a last chance convenience store that seems to be clinging to the edge of the world. There don't seem to be any customers there. And the atmosphere in the place, which is really well designed, I thought, looks like something out of a Stephen King novel. But then what was really kind of a character study is kind of blown up when the Hollywood plot comes blowing in the door. This is a spy thriller. Mark is a sleeper agent. His former handler, comes in and wakes him up with a few gibberish keywords. And spoilers, by the way. The next thing he knows, he's in the parking lot and he dispatches two guys who are trying to kill him. He dispatches them with a spoon and a cup of hot soup. The rest of the movie is Mark and Phoebe being chased by men in black vans. And that's the kind of movie it is. It's a Jason Bourne picture. And it doesn't work. It's standard, bland. It's not fun. The ads seem to suggest that it's kind of a slacker version of the TV show Chuck. But it's not. This is a dead serious movie. This is a bloody movie. There's a guy who gets an axe in his head. There's heads blowing up. There's a guy who's shot in the chest. Shot in the bare chest. And I mean, it's just, it's a bloody movie. And what really lets me down is that it never really recovers from that. You never really get the sense of what the movie started with. It just goes on autopilot through the whole thing. And it becomes a spy thriller. And not a very good one. What's really frustrating is that this movie is just trying to go through those motions, but they can't even get the motions right. There are plot threads, there are characters, there are motivations that come up in this movie, and it's never tied up. They come in, and it's like you don't really know. It's like who is this guy? You know, and whatever happened to him? You know, things are brought up and never brought up again. There's a guy who works in the CIA. The plot of the movie is that the CIA is trying to kill Mark. Topher Grace plays a guy whose team is trying to kill him, and Connie Britton plays the woman who goes in the store and she's trying to save him. That's the plot of the movie. And but there are all these little threads that are brought up. There's a guy who works in the CIA office who at one point is tasked with flying a drone. And he gets a phone call from a person. We find out the guy is gay. It's never brought up again. It's almost played like a joke. It's kind of brought up and never brought up again. It's just, you know, so what? Throwaway. But it's almost like as soon as the spy thriller plot comes in the door, the movie, you just kind of slump back in your seat because the whole movie just goes nowhere. It goes nowhere you don't expect. I mean, it's a frustrating movie. And the most frustrating thing about it is that I saw it 2 days ago, and I've forgotten most of it. It's so forgettable. I will not remember this movie a month from now. It's just worthless, and I hated it. We'll be right back.